I'm Tisha Bader. Thank you for joining me. My guests today are a lovely young couple in Israel, Hayley Nagelberg and Idan Lev. Hayley left the United States, made Aliyah to serve as a lone soldier in the IDF. Idan is a Sabra born in Israel, served in the IDF, and is studying IT and graphic design. And as his senior class project this year, produced a video about the complexities about living in Israel, in particular in the aftermath of October the 7th. The video is called Choosing to Stay. Take a look.
אני בוחר להישאר, בכל יום מחדש. לפעמים זה מרגיש כמו ההחלטה הכי נכונה בעולם, ולפעמים... דודה שלי דנה אומרת שהכל כאן אבוד. לאט לאט היא הבינה שמשהו במדינה שהיא אוהבת מת, אז היא החליטה לעזוב. איך את יכולה לעזוב? אין לך תקווה בלב? אבא שלך עלה מרומניה בלי שקל בכיסים. אמא שלך נולדה באוניית מעפילים. הם אף פעם לא איבדו תקווה.
אתה מדבר עדיין על תקווה, בחיית רבק, תטוס מפה. תדאג לעתיד שלך. מה אתה לא מבין?
היא צודקת. אני מדבר על תקווה כשאוטובוסים מתפוצצים, כשמחבלים מתרוצצים בקיבוצים, כשאין לי שקל בכיסים. אני רוצה עתיד יותר טוב לילדים שלי, חיים יותר שקטים.
יותר שקטים לא בהכרח אומר יותר טובים.
ג'וני וסיוון עזבו לקנדה לפני שנה. כשהוא עזב, החוויות שלנו עזבו איתו.
אידנוס, קשה לי. אני לא מוצא את עצמי. הם מדברים פה בשפה אחרת. קוראים לזה אנגלית, מיקרוב. לא, לא זה. ההומור אחר, היחס. כל שנייה, thank you ו-excuse me, אין אקשן. אפילו הישראלים כבר לא ישראלים. אתה יודע בכמה תורים עמדתי בלי שידחפו אותי? בלי שיצעקו עליי? אידנוס, כשאתה רחוק, כל הדברים שיצפנו אותך הם הדברים שאתה הכי מתגעגע אליהם. ניסיתי להשתלב. לא יכול, זה לא שלי. אגב, סיוון ממשיכה למשפחה שלה במיימי. אני חוזר הביתה.
איך הוא יכול לחזור לכאן, לשטח מלחמה? המקום הזה מעכב, תוקע. אנחנו מתעסקים פה בלשרוד, מה יש לחפש כאן? דנה צודקת, צריך לעוף מכאן מהר. או שאולי היא טועה, והיא עדיין לא מבינה שהיא טועה? כשאני מסתכל על היילי, הכל פשוט ומורכב בו זמנית. להשאיר את המשפחה, החברים והחיים הנוחים בניו ג'רזי, וואלה, זה מרגש אותי.
This is my home. כאן אני מרגישה אני.
לפעמים אני חושב שהיא מאוהבת בישראל יותר מאשר בי. אבל מה אם יום אחד יימאס להיילי, כמו שלפעמים נמאס לי, לג'וני, לדנה? היא תעקור אותי מהשורשים? הילד שלי לא יהיה ישראלי? ומה יישאר אם כולנו נעזוב? יהיה לאן לחזור? אני אוהב את המקום הזה, אבל כל יום פה יותר קשה מזה שלפניו.
תישאר.
תחשוב על העתיד.
חשש.
בגר כבר,
אל
תדאג
תוותר.
לעתיד שלך.
זה הבית שלך.
כיף לחיות.
קשה שם.
רבק, תטוס
אתה לא
מפה.
שייך
תחשוב על
לשם.
העתיד.
אל תוותר.
קשה שם.
תברח את זה.
אין לך מה לחפש.
זה הבית שלך.
תישאר.
מה אתה לא מבין?
די, די!
בינתיים, אני בוחר להישאר.
Hayley, Idan, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's lovely to have you both. Idan, let's start with you. The video is really so well done and powerful. And one of the things that I really love about it, having lived in Israel myself and lived in the US, it really shows, as I said, the incredible complexity of life in Israel and of being Jewish Israeli in the United States as well. And it's so beyond black and white, as you illustrate so beautifully. You really capture so many teeny tiny little particles of gray and all the emotion that is involved in it. So firstly, Mazal Tov, congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you very much.
When did you get the idea for making this as your graduate project, or is it something that's been like brewing in your mind for a while?
So I thought about it for a while because it's kind of my life. You know, I live with Hayley, and also my aunt, like you saw in the video, talked about leaving Israel. So it was there, and I thought about it for a long time. And then when we start to thinking about our ideas to the final project, it was obvious that I'm going to talk about something that related to Israel and staying or living. At first, it wasn't easy to understand what I'm going to say, what my bottom line. But yeah.
But you found a way, and illustrating your point and your different points of view with the split screen was really such a smart tool, and really, you know, split decision, split within yourself, and a split screen. It really serves your point very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I also thought about to add some experience of out of screen to the room to really get the viewers into the experience, to the difficult of the decision. But we understand with the process that continue that split screens are enough.
Yeah, and there's several images that really stayed with me. One in particular, you have a split screen of a young child lying down with his hands behind his head in the US or Canada, wherever it is, not in Israel. And then the other side of the screen is an Israeli child lying face down with their hands on top of their heads to protect them from a rocket attack. And what more can you say? The image is so powerful.
Yeah, I think Hayley is laughing because this is the one image that everybody like stopped and said, "Wow, it's like it did something to my art." And yeah,
absolutely. Hayley, I want to talk to you. When you were, I'm sure Idan was sharing with you his ideas for the video, and then you saw it for the first time, what your thoughts were, because you come at it from a very different perspective. And I want to talk about your incredible decision to move to Israel and serve in the IDF in a minute. But what was your initial response when you saw it, when you heard about what he was working on?
Well, I think from this side, watching Idan go through the process of thinking about what his final project should be, it was very interesting as I'm sure we'll get into, but as the person who made one very clear decision in this complex decision, I see, you know, why I chose to move to Israel. And I don't necessarily take the step back to think, well, if I was born here in Israel, what might I have done? Or if I was watching my friends and family grapple with the decision, what might I have done? And on a personal level, I can say I think it was the first time for me to see and hear and read and really visualize how Idan interprets what I've done thus far and what my future might look like. And that was honestly not the easiest thing even to see, because he sees from his perspective. And at first I remember saying to him, like, but wait, you know, like, I haven't said these things. I haven't thought about these different possibilities of the future. And even in the talks with the other people who appear in the video, if it's his aunt or his friend, they had similar feedback of, it's very interesting to see how someone else looks at your life and your timeline from the side and puts themselves into the position. And it made me rethink about decisions I've made, not differently to get to a different answer, but it made me take a step back and sort of reevaluate from the outside looking in.
Yeah, you definitely were able to see a different perspective and kind of see what was going on in his brain. I can see how that gives you pause and a moment to look at your own experience and your own life decisions. So obviously the video really looks at the conflict of an Israeli who is going through very difficult times. And obviously, in the aftermath of October the 7th, you use a lot of imagery from October the 7th. This was the worst attack in recent history. And clearly, it had a deep impact on you. Can you both talk a bit about that day and what life has been like since then? Hayley, do you want to start? Sure.
Sure. So as you've said, I moved to Israel just a little over 6 years ago, and I moved originally with the first mission or clear decision that I would be joining the army, and continued, signed more time, went to officer's course. So I was still in my officer service when October 7th happened. And actually, I was about to near the end of my service. Idan and I had actually spent the day before with friends, and we were in Tel Aviv, and we really had a very quintessential Israeli Friday. And we went to the art market, and we had Shabbat dinner with his family, and we were talking about maybe doing Simchat Torah together the next day. And I remember saying to Idan, I'm just going to go home to my apartment before we live together. And I'm just going to take a moment to experience this last weekend before my last month and a half in the army, and just have a quiet day and not leave my room and not leave my house. And woke up to a completely different reality. When I first moved to Israel, I lived in Kibbutz Urim in the Gaza envelope, and spent a year and a half there and have a host family there. And so, when I talk to people about October 7th, I really think my host father, Chaim, was one of the first people in this country that knew anything was happening.
Wow.
He goes out almost every morning on very long bike rides and saw some of the first cars that crossed into Israeli territory, and was actually shot at, and his hand was badly injured. And even when things were very unclear, those first few moments we left the shelter from the first sirens, for me it wasn't a question. I already knew something much bigger than what people have even begun to start grappling with is happening. And I think a lot of that day was a blur, and being still in the army and figuring out, what does this mean for tomorrow? What does this mean for the end of my service, which now maybe isn't the end of my service? Is this 1 day, 1 hour, 1 month? So much unknown, and gratitude to be safe, but terrified of what does this look like. And as the person who moved from America to Israel, I remember, as unfortunately I had a few other times in the past, progressively texting my parents and family over the course of the morning, trying to let them know something is happening. And I've thought a lot since October 7th that by the time my parents woke up a number of hours later, it was a different world. And I just have this series of texts I sent them one after another as that day wore on. And that was that. Life in Israel changed since then.
Yeah, never the same. Idan, how about for you?
So I remember, like everyone else, this Saturday, like Hayley said, we want to be separately to just relax. And it was like 1 day or a few days before I need to start my not my final year.
Your third year.
My third year in school in the academy. And I was really excited about it because I really love to study and to learn. I really like my wait a second.
Your major, what you're studying?
Yeah, so I studied like visual communication, and what I really like about it is that the fact that you can like say whatever you want to say, and you can change someone's opinion for good and bad. I hope for good. And I remember this day I take my dad car and just relaxed at my home. And then when the morning like came up and I remember that I heard some screams. I live in the center. I live near to Tel Aviv, but I remember people watching the news and screaming outside and don't get it and don't understand what's happening. And the street was empty. And it was like terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, something you talk about in the video, Idan, is and how many people talk about, a lot of the hostages who have come back of late have spoken about this. How do we keep that feeling in the aftermath of October the 7th of this incredible unity in Israel of people, you know, doesn't matter from what political leaning or religious leaning, being very, very, very united. Unfortunately, in moments of tragedy, which Israel has plenty of, and whenever anything terrible happens, like a war, the country is so united. And a lot of the hostages, as I said, have come back and saying, this love, this support, this unity, how do we have to keep it going forward?
I agreed with that. I think this is the most important thing, to be united. And also before the October 7th, I talked about it with Hayley, with all of the political reform and the protest. I saw that and I thought to myself, that's not the way. We need to talk differently. We need to think differently. And I think I tried to do something like that with my project. I tried to talk to everyone without insulting someone, without like taking a part, just to show the reality and make you think.
Yeah, and I think you did that really well, because it's interesting. The other side of the picture, right? You showed the U.S. and you showed Israel, and in America, meanwhile, we are dealing with rising anti-Semitism that really got a lot of traction after October the 7th. It was bubbling, and suddenly it kind of bubbled over. And there were people who were in the U.S. who were thinking we should move to Israel, right? And people who were in Israel thinking we should move to the U.S. So it's not an easy picture to look at. It's very complicated. And I think you conveyed that.
I can also say that I think that most of Israelis don't know about these experiences. Maybe after the October 7th, they know a little bit more about it. But before I knew Hayley, I didn't know how much anti-Semitism there is in the college and other places. Like, she told me about her bad experience with that. Yeah.
Interesting. And I think a lot of people, you know, it seemed everything was okay until the day after October 7th, and we saw what was happening on college campuses. It was under the surface, maybe, but it was, I think, shocking to us all in America and in Israel alike to see what went on. Hayley, talk a bit about that decision 6 years ago, or maybe you made the decision way before that. I don't know. You were in New Jersey. You decide to leave the life that you know, your family, your friends, to go to Israel and serve in the IDF. Tell me a little bit about making that call for yourself.
So I grew up, in New Jersey, in Schechter Jewish Day School in New Jersey my whole life. And making Aliyah, I think, always was in the back of my mind. Going back to middle school, having Israeli soldiers or even graduates of our high school coming back and talking to students about their experiences. And I definitely have multiple memories of maybe one day that will be me too. And I decided to go to university in the States. I went to the University of Illinois and experienced, I don't even know if culture shock is the word, but overall shock, going from a very small Jewish day school in small community New Jersey to a major public university. And from the day I stepped foot on campus at the University of Illinois, at least the anti-Semitism wasn't just bubbling under the surface. It sort of started to show its ugly head right from the moment I stepped foot on campus. And I feel very strongly, and I've spoken a lot over the years, that in campuses where there is anti-Semitism, you'll often also find a really strong and vibrant and proud Jewish community. And the University of Illinois had a wonderful Jewish community, and I became an active member of the campus Jewish community, but I also became very involved in campus anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism in that world. And I think choosing to put myself out there did make myself in many ways a target on campus. And the University of Illinois, I think today is it's still a great place to be a Jewish student, but we dealt with a lot when I was a student. We dealt with a lot of really difficult BDS campaigns, a lot of social media harassment, physical harassment around campus. And those experiences are ultimately what made me make the decision that when I finish my undergraduate degree, my next step is going to be moving to Israel. I felt that after standing in front of my campus and standing in front of university administration for 4 years and saying what you're saying about this country isn't correct and what you're saying about the Jewish people isn't correct, that I felt a very strong call to walk the walk and not just talk the talk and go and be here. And I'm very glad I made that decision.
It's incredible and very inspiring. And not only did you join the IDF as a lone soldier, you were an IDF spokesperson for some time. Can you tell us about that?
So I wasn't officially a spokesperson. I was in the IDF spokesperson's unit, though. Okay. I was actually in the HR. I oversaw all the reservist soldiers of the IDF Spokesperson's Bureau. I was, however, very fortunate being a lone soldier and being in the spokesperson's unit to get to know various members of the spokesperson's team. And they did invite me on quite a number of visits from U.S. visiting dignitaries and other momentum trips and other leadership trips to Israel. And they were very supportive of helping me and training me and teaching me to go around and speak, and sending me also on a delegation with the Friends of the IDF around the United States for 3 weeks. So even though I wasn't officially part of the spokesperson's unit, my time in the spokesperson's unit was definitely very impactful.
Actively, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask the two of you now. It's unbelievably, we passed the 2-year mark since October the 7th. We are, thank goodness, all of the living hostages are home. And sadly, we have seen of late the return of some of the remains. There are still remains being held in Gaza. But as far as the two of you now, in this moment, Idan, I'll start with you. In regards to the video, you start the video saying you've made the decision, you're going to stay. Again, the video is, do I stay in Israel? Do I leave? How do I deal with this very difficult day-to-day reality in this country, which is beautiful and wonderful and the best thing ever, and also extremely difficult? Has there been a change that you've seen over the last several years, or let's say the last month or two, since we passed the anniversary of the 2 years and we've seen the final living hostages return?
So I think we can see some change in like how people act and talk and maybe think about this thing they say more, but still we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of process before us. And I think nothing, in my opinion, changed. Like also now when you're asking me if I want to stay or to leave, so I'm choosing to stay for now. Like I finished with my video for now, because I want to see how things are changed here, will change here. Yeah, but I think like people understand we need this change.
Hayley?
I definitely feel Israel is my home and I want to stay here. I think Idan and I have had many conversations about never say never and never be so closed off and who knows what the future will hold. But I think specifically in looking at just the last few months, I think seeing the pure joy at the return of the living hostages and the true sadness throughout the country at the return of the non-living hostages does cement something that, as hard as it is in Israel, as difficult as these questions are, the uniqueness of living here and maintaining this country as a home is of top priority. And I think every person needs to do what's right for them. And I think that was a really big piece of Idan deciding to make his video and not letting anyone feel, if their choice should be questioned or second guessed or,
Yeah, I think it's a really honest look at a very difficult situation, difficult questions, and the fact that you found an art form to express it, Idan, is really a beautiful thing, because it shows, again, something I'm sure so many people in Israel and outside of Israel can relate to. It opens up conversations, and it moves towards what you and I, three of us were talking about earlier, as far as seriously how connected we are as Jews anywhere in the world, certainly since October the 7th. I don't like to call it a silver lining, but the beautiful, positive strengthening of connection that we feel here in the US as Jews to our brothers and sisters in Israel. And hopefully this video is also a part of conversations and engagements and things, positive steps moving forward, and healing and recovery for Israel, of course.
I can also say that I'm a very optimistic guy. You can ask Hayley. And I think that without hope, we have nothing. The hope is the only thing we have, and we have to hope always that it will be better. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. And we'll end with that. Idan Lev, Hayley Nagelberg, so lovely to meet you both. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and your video here with us on JBS and with our viewers. And we will take that word of hope and we will go forward with that and end saying Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you.
Thank you.